A big part of getting laid is logistics, right? Like if you have a bedroom right by the club, like before the night was over, I'd already banged 3 chicks, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, but the logistics were solved. I looked at going out as like, what do I want to accomplish and how am I gonna do it, right? Like when I went out, my goal was to get pussy. That was it. I didn't want to fucking dance. I didn't want to talk to my friends with fucking earplugs in and pay $10,000 to fucking do it. I went out to get pussy. That was the reason I went out. By flipping the script and getting girls to chase you, I mean, that's, the premise of the setup is, just turning it around on its head, because when a woman is chasing you, you have the power.
You saw Tate and you're like, okay, I kind of like his vibe and was talking to him. Not that he's trying to be like you, but.
Well, Tate's a very different guy. I don't think he's trying to be like me, actually. He's kind of got his own thing. I don't care if I agree with you or not. I respect somebody that takes a fucking controversial opinion and runs with it and doesn't apologize.
For a while, every tech company, everything out there was promoting that one narrative, and like literally you could get dropped if you went against that.
And I watch way too many fucking people bend the knee. Like Joe Rogan apologized, like what a fucking joke.
You didn't think he should have apologized or did the wrong thing there?
Fuck no. What a fucking pussy.
What do you think the message is of this book? What do you think your message is at the end of the day?
I think the most important message is the difference between pleasure and happiness. There is an end to the pleasure road. Most people don't ever get near it, but I actually got to the end of the road. I mean, it's gonna be some fucking good time, but at the end of the day, I don't think that that's what people should focus on.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is...
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Dan Bilzerian, the professional poker player, businessman, entrepreneur, author, and one of the world's most influential people on social media. After being discharged from the military following a 4-year service and 2 Navy SEAL Hell Weeks, you attended the University of Florida, where you spent time learning to gamble. You then entered the World Series of Poker in 2009, became a full-time professional and one of the most recognizable players on the circuit, soon amassing a huge fortune. With over 44 million followers on social media, you're known as the king of Instagram, thanks to your regular updates featuring your lavish lifestyle, excessive partying, and bikini-clad models. Today, you're the founder and CEO of the Ignite Cannabis Company, and your new book, The Setup, is a no-holds-barred memoir that lifts the lid on your remarkable rise to global stardom and reveals your unique philosophy on life that has helped you achieve money, fame, and a lifestyle that most can only dream of. Dan, welcome back to London Real.
Thank you, brother. That was a good build-up.
We did this.
You're going to the chicks from now on.
Right? I know. I should be part of the setup. We'll talk about that at some point. We did this in London 3 years ago when you came, I think, to introduce Ignite to the UK audience. We sat in a hotel room and the episode, it blew up. I mean, some of your clips are some of our most watched ever. I think Don't Chase Women is like 4 million plus. And, this book is even more interesting because, tell me if I'm wrong, Dan, but you're probably one of the more misunderstood guys out there on the internet. And I'm wondering, first of all, do you believe that's true? And second of all, is that why you wrote this book? Because as people dive into your story, they start to realize that you're not what they think you were, that you had a childhood a lot like a lot of guys that wasn't all glamorous, and that it starts to make sense a little bit more of your decisions. So I'm wondering, why did you write the book? To set the record straight. And lastly, what was the process like of writing the book? You and I have been DMing for a couple of years, and I think at one point you told me it was like the hardest thing you've ever done, which says a lot after, SEAL training. But tell me, Why write this? Why do it now?
Man, that was a lot of questions. So first of all, misunderstood is probably the number one adjective I would use to describe me. I kind of lead with my worst, and I don't really, usually talk about any of the good stuff. I feel like I, give people a highlight reel of my life, and that gives them a certain perception of who I am. And I'm okay with that. I kind of, throughout my poker career, I had a similar thing where, I had to kind of like play a role in order to get into a lot of these private games. And so I'm used to, people misunderstanding me, thinking that I'm, a different guy than I am. So I don't know. I wrote the book really kind of, partially to set the record straight. That was one of the things I'd been meaning to do it for a while. I'd actually written one in 2016 or worked with a ghostwriter to do it. And I was working out with David Goggins during quarantine, and I read his book, and he was telling me about that whole process. And it just, it motivated me to just get off my fucking ass and just do it. And so I wrote the entire book myself. I did all the edits except for one by myself. It's 36 edits I did. And the original book was 708 pages. And I'm not a writer. I'm not a reader. I don't do that shit. And it was honestly the hardest project I've ever taken on. I mean, it was just, I had to cut my workout short. I mean, every hour that I spent in the gym, I felt like was hours that I didn't have being 100% mentally focused. And when I wasn't 100% mentally focused, sometimes I would do work or edits that would actually bring me backwards. And writer's block's a real thing. I mean, it's just, it was a fucking process, man. And it also forces you to like look at your life and the mistakes that you've made, and where decisions have led you. It's kind of like a long therapy session. And then in order to write it, I mean, I wrote enough embarrassing shit in there. You have to really dive into stuff like, getting caught jerking off. That was a story that I thought I'd be taking to my grave. Nobody knew about that. I didn't ever obviously talk about it, but I figured, fuck it. If I'm gonna write the book and I'm gonna tell all the good, you got to have the bad with the good, and for people to really know me, they have to understand like a lot of what's happened in my life that I think sent me on the trajectory that I went on. And, the childhood was the foundation for that. And you can see, it's almost like, I feel like this could be like a psychological study almost, if you look at like the things that have happened and then the motivations going forward and how that impacted my life and the things that I basically perceived, no matter how much, how many girls I had or whatever, I always had a perceived lack there just due to, kind of like how I came up. And so it was probably one of the better things that I did. I would never want to fucking do it again. I don't think anybody ever writes their own book. They all get celebrities, they just all get their own ghostwriters. Nobody does their own book. I mean, it's just not really a thing, but I knew that if I wanted to have my voice, and I have a very specific voice, that I had to do it myself, and you read the book. So, I mean, I'm pretty self-deprecating. I'm pretty honest. It's really raw. And, the good is the good in the sense of like the hedonistic, like pleasure seeking stuff is far beyond what, any guy probably ever dreams of achieving. And then the shitty stuff is probably worse than anybody ever would be willing to endure. So it's accurate. It's like my whole life has been, man, a big roller coaster, the super high highs and the super low lows. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have it any other way,
Yeah. Yeah. And people can tell when you've written it. They can ultimately tell. And so this is clearly you. But to do that, it's a lot of hard work. And I think I had Tim Ferriss in here, author of the 4-Hour Work Week, and he said it's the loneliest job in the world, writing a book, because in some ways you're all alone, like you said, with your thoughts and your past, and you're struggling to try to articulate the truth, and it's just you, right? I mean, no one can really help you write that thing.
Well, I think there's another factor that people don't consider, and that's when you're editing, the book just never, ever feels like it's done.
Right.
I think it was like literally going to hell. I mean, you write this thing and then you think you're done, and then you edit it and then you think you're done. And every time it's just, man, you always feel like you can write something better. You can say something better. And then you start chopping things up, and it's just, it's a never ending battle, it seems like. And so, yeah, I just fucking just did it until I felt like I really couldn't make it any better. And I wrote the whole book in 6 months. I like literally locked myself in the house. I would work 8 to 10 hours straight, sleep for 2 hours, get back. Because I felt like there was a limited amount of like productive hours, no matter how much I slept or whatever. And so I found that doing small naps and then just writing until I couldn't write and then napping again was better than trying to get like a, 6 or 7 hour block of sleep. So yeah, I wrote the whole thing in about, I think it was probably about 6 months. And then I edited it then for like a year and a half after that. So the editing process was probably like the most brutal, I would say.
Yeah. They say writing is rewriting. And that's what makes it good, though, is when you edit it down. You mentioned Goggins. He was here a few years ago, and he was telling me how he had all these people that were going to help him with the book, and he fired one guy and fired the next guy and fired the next guy. And then he obviously created a great piece of work, that really embodies who he is. And so now it makes sense, if you're training with him and you get to see what he produced and you're thinking, wait, maybe I can jump in here. And the forward's done by David Goggins, which honestly, you two seem like the odd couple. I don't know if anybody remembers that old show on TV where there's two guys. Okay, you both went through SEAL training, but otherwise you guys seem to be very different guys. But obviously you guys are friends. So how did that happen? And how are you guys friends? Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.
So I came up to him in 2007 in a Ferrari dealership at the Wynn. We were both window shopping. And at the time I'd been following him. It was just YouTube shit at the time. They didn't really have any social media back then. And I'd seen that he had ran, it was like 204 miles. He had ran further than a Suburban could go on a tank of gas in 24 hours. And I was just kind of fascinated with that. I was always, pushing my body and doing crazy stuff. And I'd, done the, 510 days of SEAL training and half Ironman and stuff like that. And then I'd been in the, the weightlifting side. So I'd done all that. And I looked at this guy and I'm just like, damn, this fucking dude's a beast. Cause he wasn't doing it like a scrawny Ethiopian. Like this dude was like 220 jacked and fucking running ultras, which is just unheard of. And so, yeah, I went up to him and, told him I was a fan, whatever, talked to him for a few minutes, no big deal. And then flash forward, we're at a UFC fight. I think this was 2017 or 18 maybe. And I went up to him again and I said something about like, hey, I'd met you prior. I forget what the fuck I said. Just something. I just said hi to him. Big respect, whatever.
You're hitting on David Goggins, basically. You're hitting on him.
I was basically fanboying. Just tell him, look, I'm big fan, love your work, whatever. I don't normally do that, man. He's probably like, of all the guys in the world that I could have met, like he was probably top of the list, right? So, yeah. So just whatever. Went up to him, said something short. Didn't ask for a picture, and they just talked to him real quick and left. Anyways, he was sitting next to Joe Rogan, and I guess like some people came up to him or whatever, and was like, who the fuck that guy is, blah blah blah, and then they gave him like a full bio on me. And I think he came back up to me, or he DM'd me, or there was some sort of communication there, and then we chatted a few times, and then I don't think we hung out. We just talked a few times, and then quarantine hit, and I had this, big gym in my house, and he was living in Vegas, and so we connected again. I think, I just can't remember how. Maybe he hit me up, or I hit him up, or whatever it was, or maybe I read his book. I forget what it was, but anyways, we reconnected, started working out, and he was just telling me about his book and how well it did, and I read it, and I was impressed, and I felt like we had done a lot of the same things. We are very different. He's got one girlfriend that he barely sleeps with because he's training 24/7, and he's, self-admittedly has, low sex drive, obviously, because that's what happens when you train like a fucking animal. And he's not taking any testosterone and, whatever. And I am taking testosterone, and I do fuck all the time. Like, women are a big focus. And so it's like, yeah, we've got really, really opposite motivations, but what we share is like a drive, like an unparalleled drive to get what we want. And I think a lot of it's driven through like previous insecurity that we've then turned into fuel to get what we want and just run through fucking walls. We have got, some similar background in the SEAL training. I think he and I probably went through more SEAL training than almost any Navy SEAL. So he did 3 hell weeks. I think I did more days of training than him, but I think he definitely did more hell weeks. He did 3, I did 2. So
yeah, but he says in the book that he says for both him and you, it's the insecurities that were the fuel that drove you both forward. And we're going to jump into this with your childhood, but he also says, what makes the world unique are people who are willing to go against the grain and say the things that no one else is willing to say. And that's both you and David. And so, again, I saw him on your jet, I think 1 year or 2 years ago, and I was like, oh, that's weird. But then now that you talk about it, it makes sense, because you guys have a lot of commonalities. But of course, no one knew about your childhood until this book. So, it answers a lot of questions. And so I think it's time for me as your psychologist to get you to sit back on the sofa as we go into your childhood, because it really is fascinatingly your childhood that seems to shape the rest of your life. I don't know if you agree with that, but
No, it did. That set the trajectory of, where I went and my motivations and, so on and so forth.
When you first sent me my pre-copy with my name all over it, and it was on my desk for a while, and all these guests would come through the studio and all these crypto billionaires, and they'd see the pictures of the naked girls on the jets, and they'd be like, what the hell is that? And I'd be like, oh, it's Dan's book. It's coming out soon, but you can't take a look at it. But the first thing I noticed was, of course, the front part about your dad, and I might as well tell it because it's right here on the front page. But there's a quote from your dad saying, if you release this book as it is, it will be an unmitigated disaster. And then you say, of course, above that, for my father, thank you for diligently proofreading this book. Sorry I didn't take any of your suggestions. So the whole thing is prefaced by, okay, there's a father-son relationship here, which is one of the most fascinating relationships known to man. It's in the Bible. It's in a lot of my guests, to be honest, Dan. A lot of my mentors are like a father-son relationship, and people see this dynamic of, an alpha male trying to bring a son up and a son resisting some things and doing some things. And so after you've written this book, how would you describe your relationship with your dad? I mean, obviously he was a pretty intense guy, a driven guy, I guess an alpha guy, but also very different than you.
Yeah, extremely different. So I didn't get a ton of childhood interaction with him. He was working a lot, and he went to prison, and then I went away to the military. And so I would say probably not until the middle of my life that I really kind of connect with him. I mean, we would have interactions, obviously. But yeah, we were just so different, just so different. He didn't drink, he didn't party, he didn't chase girls. I mean, you read it, I saw his relationship with Ernie as being so strange because Ernie was the guy that, had the hot chicks and the fast cars and everything else. And my dad, he had the money, but he just didn't wear flashy clothes, drove shitty cars, wore a Casio. It was just, so I think I think a lot of times in your life, you want what you don't have, or those things seem appealing to you. And, we didn't have any of the flashy stuff. So I guess when I made my own money and I went to go spend it, I spent it on all the things that he didn't spend it on. And I focused on a lot of those things, the girls and whatever. And so yeah, we just had completely different lives. I mean, he's been married to my mother the whole time, never cheated. And so, yeah, I just, guy works 18 hours a day, and I try and work as little as possible.
And yet you both were both very successful, really. You know, you both did some really big things.
Yeah, I think people that take unconventional paths either do, really shitty or really well. It's, we definitely were not going to be middle of the road guys. You go off and you cut a fucking broad swath and you go down your own path that usually ends really well or really shitty. But the people that are usually super successful don't take traditional paths. They're usually out of the box thinkers, and they, just kind of, take their own road. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I'm sure for every successful person, there's, hundreds of thousands that have crashed and burned, but it's just taking that risk. That's part of it. So in order to, just like in poker, in order to, win big, you got to risk big. So
yeah. And I want to talk about that. It's funny when I think about my dad. He never drank, never did drugs. Pretty calm. Of course, I drank everything and tried all the drugs and did the crazy stuff. So in that way, we were very different. But then now that I get older, I look at myself and I'm like, wow, I'm a lot more like him than I ever realized. So there was a lot of subconscious programming going on where I am like him a lot. Do you see those parallels with you and your dad?
Yeah, there is definitely that subconscious programming. Look, when you grow up, your dad is like the superhero usually, for people. And so whether or not you choose to acknowledge it or not, you take on some of those traits just because you look up to your dad. And so when you look up to somebody, a lot of times you try and emulate him, whether or not, it's consciously or unconsciously. So I would say my drive and my focus and my intensity, I would say are, really similar to him. Obviously, there's a lot of differences, but I think there are some similarities as well. And I would say it's probably just the relentless pursuit of whatever it is that you're passionate about. For, me and my dad, it's, for him, it was work. It was doing the corporate takeover stuff. For me, it was pussy, money, whatever. And, I did well at what I wanted to do well at. They weren't probably the most lofty goals, but they were my goals and I achieved them. So for better or for worse.
Yeah, and both of you kind of no apologies for what you guys went after. And a couple key moments in the book I think are interesting. First of all, him going to jail, or the threat of going to jail, and then him going to jail, and then you kind of being a little bit outcast by friends in the neighborhood, and that kind of affected you. And then obviously, I think he sent you off to military school in like 8th grade. Obviously not a lot of contact with him as well. So those events seem to kind of shape who you were. And then of course, losing your virginity, and we'll get to that. But what do you remember about those aspects of your childhood as far as the perceptions of your dad and then growing up in those teenage years? I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up. If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you gonna do? What's the choice that you're going to make?
Yeah, I just remember being really unhappy as a kid. I think it's funny because a lot of people like say that they wish they'd go back and be a kid. I'd fucking kill myself before I had to do that again. I didn't like, listening to people. I didn't want to take orders. I felt like I had to take shit from everybody. As a kid, you don't really have a lot of freedoms. I love having freedom. Girls didn't like me. I mean, I like girls. I mean, everything that I wanted, I didn't have as a kid. I had, an indoor basketball court, but I don't give a fuck about basketball. I had a lot of things from the outside that people would be like, oh, damn, like you had a badass childhood. But the things that I cared about, I didn't have any of it. So, I wanted to be sought after by women. I wanted to have, flashy, cool shit. I wanted the fast cars. I wanted to be popular. I wanted all these things. And, I guess I ended up getting them, but not as a kid, that's for sure.
And you were insecure and uncomfortable around girls.
Yeah. I think most guys are, it's like anything in life. Until you have success at something, you're going to, not have confidence, right? Like, the first time you go out bow hunting, you're probably not going to be super confident, but after you've, shot 30 deer or, whatever it is that you want to do, free diving, snowboarding, whatever it is, when you first start something, it's pretty hard to be confident. So I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe like the guy that was super good looking and, girls were always coming after him, maybe he started off confident, but that wasn't me. So
yeah, maybe he didn't end up that way. Now, losing your virginity, it's an interesting point because you did it in a very unique way. Can you tell us how it happened? And do you think that affected you and your future relationship with women or not?
A unique way. That's one way to put it. Yeah, losing your virginity at 13 to a Mexican hooker is probably not the most traditional path. I don't know. I think it's different for guys and girls. For guys, they just kind of want to get it out of the way and learn. And this was back before, we had the internet to teach us everything and you could watch Pornhub or whatever. I mean, when I fucked that girl, I hadn't even seen a vagina before. Like, I didn't even know where it was. Like, I was just like, so you have to understand it's just very different for kids nowadays. I mean, you can literally watch people having sex, at 6 years old. You could, go on the fucking internet and type in sex and it'll come up, and back then we just didn't have any of that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think the first time people have sex is usually that great. It's more of a learning experience. So for me, I was just trying to get as much knowledge as possible, as soon as possible. So I don't know. I mean, yeah.
How old are you, Dan?
I'm 41.
41. So yeah, I'm 51, but people don't know back in the day, like there was no access, and I remember we had a college student that used to live with us and we give him free room and then they'd have to drive us around and all this. My mom did this as a single mom to like save on money. And at one point I went to him and he literally had to draw out the female anatomy because I was like, what the hell is going on down here? Like, I got no idea. There's no internet. There's no resources. There's no porn. He literally had to draw it for me because I didn't know what was going on. So like you said, back in the day, there was a real lack of information. I don't know what's better then or now. I don't know what's worse. But
it's tough, man. It's a toss up. Now you have so much information and so much access and so much stimulus. that I feel like it gives people anxiety. You know, they get so much stimulus on their phone that then when they're not on their phone, it's hard for anything to replicate that level of just boom, 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 which is why I think TikTok is so addictive, is because, you know, the algorithm, it knows what you want and then it shows it to you, and it shows it to you in these snippets that are just designed to capture your attention immediately. And you kind of see it now when people watch movies, right? It's like, you know, a movie, you know, the good dramas, you know, used to have a very slow build up and you get to know the characters and whatever. And now it's kind of like, if you don't hook the audience soon, they're going to be on their phone or they're going to be zoned out or whatever. And so it's just different. I think it's given people a lot shorter attention span. But at the same time, you learn a lot more and you figure shit out a lot faster. And, you know, you've got a lot more access to information because of that. You build on that information. And you learn more and you figure things out faster. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a benefit to having, you know, good old conversations where people just look each other in the eye and shake hands and talk and things are normal, as opposed to now where you're texting 50 different people and you're ghosting this chick because that's going to be effective, and you're communicating on Snap and Instagram. You know, it's like you got 70 different messages going, 50 different people, and it's this whole thing. And it's just, yeah, it's just so radically different, you know, and I don't know what's better. It's, you know, it's kind of like, I guess in the next 20, 30 years, we'll see the net effect of a lot of these things. And then we'll know, you know, I mean, I know that when I was a kid, things were a lot simpler, you know, I say a kid, when I was, you know, 18, 19 years old, you were just less distracted. You were more in the moment. And that was nice, but you were a lot more ignorant. You were less connected to people. So it's just a different world, man.
Yeah.
Very different world. I think we're like of the few generations that actually experienced both, right? Because, you know, if anybody much younger than me kind of probably grew up with the internet, like the internet kind of hit when I was 20 years old. So before that, it just wasn't even a thing. I mean, there was no smartphones, there was no internet, there was just no way to, you know, get this information. I remember, you know, wanting to do steroids and just having no fucking idea how to do it. You know, I didn't know where to shoot it. I, you know, ended up having some fucking, you know, guy in a Mexican veterinary pharmacy smack me in the ass and jabbed me with a fucking harpoon needle. And, you know, and just, you had no idea, man. And now it's like you could just watch YouTube videos on literally anything. So
yeah, no, you're right. Like you and I have seen before and after, and the thing is, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, so no one will ever know. But there was a world before. Maybe it was simpler. I don't know. But also, like you said, there was a real lack of information. And again, I would have never learned about a Goggins or a Bilzerian when I was a kid. All I got was what was on TV, at the movies, or what was in a library. So yeah, again, in some ways I couldn't expand my mind. So yeah.
But the flip side to that is now you have every dickhead and their mother trying to get famous, doing crazy shit, risking their lives, doing all this stupid stuff for Instagram. It's hard to really like enjoy the moment because everybody's fucking filming all the time. It's like, instead of enjoying an experience, everybody wants to capture the experience. And so I think, you know, that's definitely a negative, I would say.
Yeah. You sounded like a drunk.
And also your lack of privacy. Like I have no privacy. Like people are filming me all the time. Like if I go out, it's like you're like a fucking zoo animal. You know what I mean? People are just like filming you without consent, whatever. And so I think it's even more isolating for people that are, you know, famous. It's just, you know, everything they do is documented. So they make, and now it's like, you know, a lot of these guys, they fuck up one time and it's like, boom, they're canceled. So
yeah.
It's a little bit different, you know, and I think there was more mystique with celebrity before. And it was different as well. You know, like these actors, if they don't have social media and they're not posting, they don't do a movie, people just forget about them.
Yeah.
You know, that's another thing is like you stay famous a lot longer now because of social media. I mean, look, I've been famous for like 10 fucking years. Like that, like wasn't really a thing before. Like, usually big actors would have a 5-year run and then, you know, they kind of like stop doing movies or they'd want privacy or whatever. And then you wouldn't really hear that much about them. Like you'd remember their name, but like you wouldn't think about them. But now with social media, you're just like, I mean, look, I took 3 years off. I don't give a fuck about it. And I came back and it was just like, I'm getting more, views now than ever, and it's like, so just, you can't just turn it off either. That's another thing. But yeah, it's totally different fucking game now. Everybody's, now because fame is accessible for people, like you got that cash me outside chick that, says one stupid thing on a fucking TV show, and now she's making $2 million a month on OnlyFans, and she's got a whole fucking career, and now she's all of a sudden a rapper. It's like just off of one thing, so it's like everybody's kind of like looking for that breakthrough moment. And I feel like there's a newfound obsession with fame because now it's accessible for almost anybody, and people see that. So I think there's a lot more people that are trying to be famous or that value fame or whatever. Much more so, I think, than we were when we were kids. I mean, I never thought I was going to be famous. You probably never thought, anybody would know who the fuck you were, right? Like it was just either you're a movie star or a rock star, people don't know you. I mean, that was how it was, and now it's very different.
Yeah, well, you've been in this for 10 years, which is like 100 years in social media. So you've seen this crazy arc happen, of being kind of an early kind of OG of posting kind of those premium content on what used to be these like basic social media platforms. And like you said, now you can see everybody jumping into things. I was at Yosemite National Park a few years ago, Dan, and I went there when I was a kid. And, you go up and look at the, geysers and the grok face that Alex, climbed. And now you go back and there are warning signs saying, don't get social media photos because people are killing themselves. And it's like, it's crazy. These rocks have been there for hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years. And now humans, because we created this digital system, are killing ourselves to try to get the coolest selfie. It's wacky, isn't it? It's just wacky. Hey, do you want to profit from crypto? Then join my DeFi Academy. The Crypto DeFi Academy will help you create generational wealth. But don't take my word for it. Listen to my students.
When I first got into crypto, I remember thinking to myself, I need to learn more. Brian Rose, learning crypto, learning DeFi, gotta do it.
I am so grateful that I jumped in and did this. I had to break through some limiting beliefs that I can do this, that I can afford this, that I can be in this.
It challenges the things that are deeply rooted within us.
Joining DeFi Academy has been one of the best decisions I have made on my blockchain journey.
This course was a life changer, a game changer, a huge eye-opener, coming from knowing practically nothing at the speed of the learning over 4 weeks was just fantastic.
The information you provided in this class was invaluable.
I feel far more confident in my next steps.
You took complex concepts and made them easier to understand.
What's different than so many other ones is it just doesn't tell you what to do. It actually makes you do it.
This is for people who are serious about becoming traders. This is the way it should be done.
I realized from this learning experience again that it is not about what you learn, but about who you learn it from.
The energy was insane. I've never experienced such incredible energy on a live call. Brian Rose, you are a legend, my friend.
It's the only thing in the market where you can get all information and learn everything what you need to know.
Everything is so clear and so well done, and I am just forever grateful for this program.
It made me feel so much more confident about crypto than I did before.
I did not anticipate how passionate I was going to become about it.
It's also been like a big learning experience for me, not just in the crypto space, but just an overall balance of life.
What I've learned is, how to take ownership, of my life in a way that I really hadn't before.
Yeah, you can't put a price on that, really.
I would recommend it to anybody, top notch.
Excellence does not come cheap. So if you want excellence, you got to pay for it, but it's so worth it.
Pull the trigger. That's what this course is about.
You're not going to regret it, really. It's amazing.
Thank you, Brian and team.
So what are you waiting for? Crypto is happening now. Click the link below, submit your application, and let me mentor you on how to create generational wealth and build the decentralized financial infrastructure of the future.
Yeah, we just lost one of our athletes about 2 weeks ago. He died base jumping. And, not that he was doing that, strictly for social media or that it was anything to do with that, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think people are much more willing to take risk if they know that there's some potential upside, as opposed to just like doing it for the thrill.
Yeah.
And yeah, you see all these base jumpers, man, and it's like, it's really sad. I mean, it's a fucking amazing sport, and I'm sure it's the fucking ultimate adrenaline, and it looks amazing, and fucking I'll probably end up trying it. But you know, it was just sad, man, because I knew he was gonna die. Like when you're friends with the base jumper, they're gonna die. Like they are, like somebody that does wingsuit base jumping will die if they jump enough. Like it's just odds, right? And they know it, and but they're addicted to the adrenaline and they like it, and you know, that's their choice, man, and I respect it. But it's just sad. Like he died, the guy that filmed him died a day later, and then his other base jumping partner died 2 days after that. So literally in 1 week, 3 of them died. It was just like,
wow,
man, you know, it's really sad. And it was, yeah, and the only way they identified him was the Ignite wingsuit, man. It was just like, dude, fucking, man, that really hit hard. That was a pretty shitty one. But I think there's a lot of people that are, I mean, not that was, you know, I don't think his had anything to do with social media, but I'm just saying, you know, there's people out there doing crazy shit and, you know, filming it. And I think because they're filming it, they take it up probably another notch that they might not have otherwise.
Yeah, it would be hard not to. And again, if you're seeing what other people are doing and you're consciously or subconsciously competing with them, then you're going to take it up a notch. And the only way you can show it is with the film, right? So yeah, but the margin for error is so low. And like you said, on a long enough timeline or a short enough timeline for base jumping, everybody dies. So
yeah.
I guess it's like any extreme lifestyle, but with that, it's just slightly weird. So, well, sorry to hear that. And again, that's like vivid. And it also must be really tricky when one of your friends dies, then is there a seed of doubt in the other ones? You know, I know it really hits the community hard when that happens. So,
I mean, I hope it does,
yeah.
You know, I hope it does because, you know, if somebody's had 500 jumps, then maybe they can get out and, you know, they've skirted death and they've got that whole experience and, you know, they don't have to take it to the last jump. Yeah. I mean, that would be my hope. I mean, I think it's something that's like, I mean, it looks fucking amazing. I mean, I get it. I get why they do it. But I think at some point you got to set a limit of like, okay, we're going to do 50 jumps. We're going to do 10 jumps or whatever it is. But like,
yeah,
you just can't. It's like playing Russian roulette. I mean, you just play enough, you're going to get killed. I mean, it's the way it is, you know?
Yeah, but you hang out with all these adrenaline junkies. You hang out with UFC fighters. You hang out with people that probably party crazy. I mean, and yeah, there's a certain type of personality that can't walk away from that rush, right?
Yeah, and I think there's different types of rushes, you know, like off-roading, for instance. I would say a dirt bike is a 10 out of 10 on the adrenaline scale. I think it's got to be close. I mean, maybe a 9.5, whatever. It's up there, and and fun-wise, I mean, it's got to be like one of the most fun sports to be really good on a dirt bike. I mean, it's fucking amazing. But you know, you could take a trophy truck out and have almost that exact same level of exhilaration. I mean, you know, just yesterday I was doing 100 miles an hour going through fucking 6-foot whoops, you know, sideways, fucking drifting across the fucking highway, you know, at 80 miles an hour. And like, I mean, that was pretty fucking, you know, adrenaline for me. And every girl in the car was fucking screaming and it was fun. But I got a roll cage. Yeah. We got 5-point harnesses. You know, if we fucking crash, like we're going to walk away from it, you know, whereas, you know, on a dirt bike, there's no fucking cage. There's no safety equipment. And I guess that's, you know, you get a little bit of the rush from that. But I think as I get older, I just think of like smarter ways to get the same adrenaline just in a safer fashion. Or I try and like.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website, londonreal.tv, or click the link in the description below.